I do think that people are frustrated, and I think it's the Prime Minister trying to get away with not following his own rules. And I think this is the bigger issue than anything else, is that the Prime Minister set the law. He's chosen to disregard that when people weren't even able to see their dying loved ones. And it sets a dangerous precedent that the Prime Minister of this country thinks that he can break the ministerial code, which is a sackable offence, a resigning matter under the code, and he can break his own laws and say, well, I didn't realise that I'd broken the law. He did realise he'd broken the law. He knew he shouldn't have done that, and he should resign. And I don't believe any other parliamentarian would have dragged it out as long as the Prime Minister has. And I don't believe that everybody broke the rules either. You know, you'll hear from many of your listeners about how they sacrificed seeing their loved ones, sacrificed, time with people that they could have had because they stuck to the rules at the time and they wasn't partying. So, and many people who were fined for what they thought was, they didn't realise that they broke the law, and it was nowhere near to the degree that the Prime Minister set. So I don't have much sympathy with the Prime Minister's view that we should all just move on. I think it sets a very dangerous tone that if we think that the Prime Minister of this country can break his own laws and lie to Parliament.
We spoke to Bob Seeley earlier on, and he said he's not sure how he's going to vote tomorrow, but he made the point that he actually wishes that he'd voted against specific lockdown rules, and says it's the rules that were wrong, and that people in care homes, people who couldn't go to funerals and all the rest of it, it was wrong that they couldn't do any of that stuff. So he's saying that it's the rules that were wrong. Is that perhaps something that we could agree on? Do you think that they were too stringent?
Well, the principle is that the Prime Minister of the country set the rules based upon the medical and scientific evidence of the time, which meant that the people of this country made huge sacrifices at that time. Those rules and that law was very clear, and the Prime Minister went on the TV and went on the radio many times to address the nation over that period, telling them, it even wrote to a young child who couldn't have a birthday party saying, I'm sorry you can't have your birthday party, but it's great that you're following the rules that have been set. And yet at the same time, the Prime Minister was breaking those rules. This is a principle of, can a Prime Minister remain in office after breaking his own laws, which were about public safety at the time? And then not only that, the Prime Minister has breached the ministerial code by misleading Parliament, and therefore he should resign because the ministerial code says so. So if we don't do something about this now, if we don't set that red line, then the Prime Minister has got away with lying to the British public, lying to Parliament, and breaking the law. That's very serious, and I think that will have ramifications for decades to come, and it undermines our democracy. So I accept that in hindsight, some people, even at the time actually, many people were frustrated with the law. The Prime Minister was very clear at the time, and we were very clear from Labour that we supported the scientific and the medical evidence, and we supported the government in keeping the British people safe. And therefore, the Prime Minister had an obligation to follow his own rules and to follow his own law, and he broke them, and therefore that is a sackable offence. He should resign as a result of that.
If Keir Starmer had been fined for the beer and sandwiches that he had, or perhaps it was just beer, should he have resigned?
Well, if Keir Starmer had broken the law, then yes, but Keir Starmer hasn't broken the law. Keir Starmer's been very clear on following those rules and guidance and supported the government when people were criticising him for supporting the government in the national interest based on the science and the medical advice that we were given at the time to keep the British public safe. It's the Prime Minister who has now kept this going for months when he knew exactly that he broke the law, and he's continuing to keep this going because he knows that he's broke the ministerial code, he knows he's broke the law, and he knows he should resign. And he's dragging this out. And the point being is that in future, we have to set the tone, we have to set the bar that says our Prime Minister cannot lie and break the law. I think that's a fundamental for our democracy, that we have to do that as parliamentarians, never mind what political party you are elected from. As parliamentarians, there's a bigger issue here about our democracy going forward.
I understand the point that you're making, that this is a Prime Minister, that he set the laws, that it's an example, democracy, all the rest of it. But something was different here, that these were very specialised circumstances where was it not possible that when you are at work and someone brings a cake in, all the rest of it. It's not as clear cut as, for example, breaking lockdown rules by having a party and inviting 500 people, or that's a more clear cut example. Is it not possible that at the time he did not know that he was breaking the rules? Because, I mean, on this programme, we were constantly asking ministers, if I sit on a bench, on a park bench, am I breaking the rules? And then they would clarify that we were. And then we would all look at each other like, well, some of us are still going to sit on park benches. It wasn't that clear cut, was it?
It really was, and the Prime Minister knew that at the time. The Prime Minister came to Parliament when, first of all, he's allowed members of his staff and allowed members of his government to resign over minor issues compared to what the Prime Minister's been found, to have done and broken the law. But at the time, he came to Parliament and said there was no parties. Then when he found out there were parties, he says, this is outrageous. There shouldn't have been parties. Then when it found out that he was actually at the parties, he said, I didn't know there was a party, ambushed by cake. This is ridiculous from a Prime Minister that set the rules. They spend millions of pounds of taxpayers' money on giving adverts out that was very clear at the time that you should stay at home and that you shouldn't be having social gatherings, even at work. None of our NHS workers were going out partying after a shift. In the office or anywhere else. This was very clear. The Prime Minister knew he broke the rules. He's just been trying to get away with it for months and has cost us more money now in police investigations, when the Prime Minister should have done what was the decent thing and said, I did break the rules. And if he did think he wasn't breaking the rules at the time, he should have come to Parliament and been very clear that he had a birthday cake in number 10 at the time when he did, and been very clear on why he felt that he didn't break the rules at that time. He's accepted that the police have said that he broke the rules and he's been fined, and therefore he's accepted that he broke the law. He should resign as a result of that.
OK, Angela, thank you. That is Angela Rayner. She's Labour's deputy leader.